All right, we are live for the next session. So let's wait a few minutes or a few seconds, I should say, for people to refresh their screens and make sure to wherever. But yes, we are actually joined here by a surprise special guest.
We found this SPLOT on the side of the road. We decided to pick him up for the road show.
It's old and rotten.
Yeah, he got on the
bus. It's a special guest appearance on this version of the Reclaim Roadshow. Alan Levine, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, Jim and Lauren. It's great to be here, and you guys are having a heck of an event here. It's just wild, like just trying to follow everything in Discord, much less what else is going on.
How would you define the difference between SPLOTs and templates, and what was yours and Brian's thinking about it? And then we want to go and hopefully have people install them, so we would love your advice.
That's great. I mean, in the beginning, there wasn't any thought of this, but there's been a lot of use, and we did this in the early days when we were doing some stuff on State U for that. I'm forgetting that workshop we did at DML where you made it so you could install, vanilla WordPress or the other variations with pre-built content. Really addressing the same problem. Like if you set up someone new to WordPress with this blank site with the 21, 22 theme that has just hello world in it, it doesn't really help them that much. So it was a whole idea for someone new to this environment. You give them something that has some function or has some pre-built things built in that then they can go in and start modifying from. And, that was sort of like, the thing that, Brian Lamb told me. He arranged this 5-month fellowship for me at TRU in 2014. And as I was driving up, he kept texting or messaging like, I have this sort of idea of what you can do when I get here. And literally it was over a beer at the Fox and Hound where he said, I have an acronym. And he said something like, I can't remember which one it was now, simplest possible learning online tool. And I did laugh. But he explained that it was some of that same, it was that side of the coin of how to help faculty who get a brand new WordPress site, who want to do something specific, paired with the same time concerns about doing things where you could create sites for students to use where they didn't necessarily have to create accounts and give away their information. And there was an English professor, Ken, I can't remember, and more or less he had 1 or 2 writing assignments per semester. But for each one of these, you have to teach students WordPress, teach them how to log in. They see that dashboard, and although Tom Woodward has done some magic to simplify the dashboard, it's still a bit dizzying if that's your first thing. We kind of built along that with this idea of, I can't remember why, but I was playing with something to do one of those image comparison tool things where you slide and compare 2 images, and you had to upload media. And to do that, you need access to the WordPress backend. But I found a way you could do it without going into the dashboard. And that was kind of like the first crude SPLOT. And then we did the writing one. And it had a lot of resonance. Some of the instructional designers, Michelle Jakubik and I'm forgetting the other one at TRU, they were doing a workshop on copyright, and they wanted their participants to go out and find images that were open license and then report back to what they shared. And they were saying, like, could this be done in one of these SPLOT-like things? Because again, people in a workshop, they don't need to log into a WordPress account to upload an image. So that was the real genesis, is just to create, then it just became this thing of like kind of these, simple purposed tools that were, for mostly done in WordPress, but not necessarily, that could help faculty or students or whoever build sites that had more than just a blogging publishing capability. And then the template idea, like, it's really no difference, because in many cases, and we see this like in my work with the folks at the Open ETC, is like, again, you want students to create a portfolio, but why give them hello world again? Whereas for many cases, there's a structure to the portfolio, some categories, maybe some sample posts, some example galleries that really makes sense. So again, it's giving your DOOO folks who are running these places the ability to say, like, here's the starting site I want to give to folks, and they can do it in one click, and they're not going through all the headaches of installing themes and plugins and yada yada yada.
Yeah, and it is brilliantly kind of conceived in that way to kind of make the jump that, between plugins and themes and all the other things, WordPress is a complex, in ecosystem. It's amazing, but it's got a lot. And you focused in WordPress, and our SPLOTs are in WordPress. By and large, those are the pre-existing ones. But Lauren, do we want to show folks like this might be the workshop part? We finally got to the workshop part after 5 hours. But the idea that you all can use a one-click installer, True Collector. Tim Clark brought it up earlier. It's a great tool, one of my favorites. I've been using it for various things, but just the portfolio site. So Lauren, do you want to demonstrate, and folks at home, feel free to play along. You can try this at home. It won't hurt you, we don't think, but if it does, it's this guy's fault. Below me, this one. Yeah,
absolutely.
that guy.
Yeah, I can take the next few minutes, I guess, here to let me also just mute myself here. Okay. Yeah, I can take the next few minutes just to maybe install an existing SPLOT and then go through and show, I guess, or narrate my thought process for going in and updating images and things like that. Just because I think that's a bit helpful, though I'm a little, I don't know, nervous to do this in front of Alan, who has worked so tirelessly to help us with these things.
I want to come back to him and talk about the SPLOT box, so he's not off the hook yet.
But True Collector is definitely one of my favorites, specifically for that reason, is that you can engage with a community that doesn't need credentials. They don't need to have dashboard access in order to interact with the site. So I'm just going to install this at laurenhanks.stateu.org. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger there. I'm going to keep the same version, English, yada, yada. So the one thing that is a bit different for SPLOTs or these custom installers, you do have to set your username and password. For the plain or empty version of WordPress, you don't have to know that, but for the custom installers, you do. It's just a rule that Installatron unfortunately enforces. So for now, I'm just going to call this Hanks, Lauren Hanks, and I'll set this life. And okay, Reclaim for Life. Lauren at reclaimhosting.com, and I'm going to call this my workshop SPLOT. Cool. And I'll keep the tagline the same, and I'll let Installatron manage my advanced settings and click install. So now it's installing those files automatically for me. This is kind of what we were looking at first thing this morning. So we're coming full circle now. And instead of installing that clean, fresh version of WordPress that says hello world and feels really overwhelming for our beginner users, we're going to have something that already has a theme with plugins installed and configured, and that works really well. So assuming this is currently working on our StateU demo server, let's see.
Go StateU. I got my t-shirt somewhere. Oh, it's upstairs.
Lauren Hanks. And I'll do Reclaim for Life. I'll log in. We'll see what's happening on the dashboard here currently. So there's always a risk, one, doing it live because something can break, or you don't have your password correct, right? Or, I don't know if this one's working on the demo server, so maybe I should choose another one. Actually, cookies are blocked, yeah. Or maybe this is my browser. I'm working in Chrome, so usually I do my demos in Safari, so that might be my issue.
How you
We're
doing?
not sweating.
Scale of 1 to 10.
This is known as
Not
podium
so hot
time.
at the moment.
You know what? Go to what is it? What did I call it? I called it. Wait, hold on. There's a cool one that you can use as a demo.
Yeah, we talked earlier about the State U admin landing page being the SPLOT. I think we just talked about that, but I could always go to a different browser.
Go to bavaradio.com. I'm going to put it right here because this is I put it in the chat. So this is a cool use of the True Collector.
Wow.
And this is actually, I love this. And there's no reason to do it in a SPLOT. So this is one of those cases where I just wanted to explore a SPLOT. And Alan, I know we went back and forth in comments about this, but I've been doing vinyl casts and radio broadcasts on DS106 radio on and off for the last year and change. And this is a really cool tool where you can actually come in, and if you go, Lauren, if you scroll up and you go to the actual collect, right? You can go there and like you could submit an entry, like a WordPress form-based entry where you could collect the title of the album, the image, and then all of the kind of, for me, I'm just linking tweets and the audio. And it's just a really elegant, simple way to create a collection of resources that ideally a class who was going out and maybe collecting images about a neighborhood, or, you know, I've seen some great stuff at Coventry University where they had a kind of glossary of resources for people who were learning a language. So they'd use an image and then they'd discuss that image for Chinese students who were studying at Coventry learning English. And they just did this huge glossary of terms that people would take with them. And the True Collector for me is such a brilliant tool, Alan. I am a total fan. I'm sure you've seen other examples maybe that you want to point out as people play with it, or talk about the True Writer, or one of the things. You let us know, please. Drive it.
Well, I just say that Daniel Villar and Rubia at Coventry he was so good at using it in ways I never thought. So he had his students use it to do their intros. So they had a directory, and he's used it at conferences to have, and I think Alt has used it for that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that kind of pushed me to sort of turn it from a thing just to be images with captions to provide a full like writing interface. And also, I think it was Lauren Haywood there who pointed me out to the fact that the instructions on my form were kind of they weren't very helpful for some of their other classes. So when you set one of these up through the WordPress customizer, you can actually change the wording of everything on that form to be more specific for your instance. So you can be very specific when you're asking them to write something in the box, or what to say about, you know, instead of just upload your media, it would be like, you know, upload your biology X-ray scans if you're doing an X-ray scan site. So again, like a lot of the things that have folded into it came from the ways that people were using it that I never anticipated.
Yeah, add your image. Oh, that one's not working anymore, but you can even just see, you know, the differences in text here compared to, you know, Baba Radio, which, by the way, Jim, I just submitted that one. So if you can publish it, you should.
Okay, I will get in there, but I'm going to have to really consider hard. But whether I publish that, but what about, and that's a good actually point, is like people can actually vet what gets published. And it goes back to your point earlier on, and I will actually vet that one, Lauren, but like this also allowed students to be anonymous in some ways, which was a big concern for the folks up in British Columbia at TRU. And I really love that, like, it wasn't about learning WordPress necessarily. It was about contributing to a communal project in some meaningful way. And I really love that. What was the site, Lauren, that Daniel set up for OER 20, where they had everybody do their introductions for that? That was another great use of SPLOTs. So I will actually vet that for you right now, Lauren. But I think what would be cool
social
is
bingo or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, here's a great one.
At one
Tim
of our
Clark just put a great one. I'm sorry, Tim Clark just put a great example in the Discord you might want to bring up.
Okay, cool. Let me get it now.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Tim and the folks at Muhlenberg have been great at rolling these out too.
Oh, I love
Absolutely.
that. That's awesome. And one of my favorite features of this too is you can just click on random and it'll just sort of randomly take you through different uploads, things like that. Oh, this is actually an upload. That's crazy. Okay, good. Next item.
All right. So Lauren, you can now check Bava Radio. And the thing is it will also go to Bava Tuesdays because I have them directly syndicating. So there's going to be a blog post about this, which is awesome. But yeah.
Because it turns into
now wait a
everything,
minute. Now we can all publish to Jim's blog.
Now you got it.
Know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be pounding Bava Radio now. So
well, I'm so irrelevant that the spots, the spam bots don't even care anymore.
That's funny.
Here's another one by Tom.
Okay. I was also going to show,
that's
this
right.
is the collector that we used for one of the older, or I should say previous workshops for Reclaim Roadshow. And we actually just put this on Flash Participants so other folks could, see, and connect with previous participants. So I still have that available as well too.
And that was great too, because it was so easy to kind of just allow people to quickly connect and share their stuff. And I just like that it's a tool outside of, the various social medias. And so it just kind of seems independent in its own way. So here's another one.
We used it on a project when Brian and I and some others were. Yeah, this is a DS-106 assignment bank.
Exactly, right? Like you don't see these in the wild too much.
This is the theme based on the assignment bank.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
So,
Well,
and there's a bug that some guy needs to fix.
Well, I mean, I would also be interested, and I know folks, they've been very patient with us, but would love to see examples of just very simple things folks have installed as they're playing. You can put them in here. If you want time to play with it, we're going to be doing a show and tell tomorrow. And so this would be a really good, hopefully kind of a inspiration for you all to play with some SPLOTs or do some templates in Installatron. But really think of this as a way to kind of play with something like True Collector or True Writer. And True Writer is another one worth showing because that's a gorgeous tool. Mm-hmm. And just really kind of explore that. And maybe tomorrow, or even if you've done something quickly, just link for us to show and see how quick it is for you to get something up and running.
Yeah. How much time do we have? I might have to run pretty soon. I have
Yeah, you can jump out whenever you need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before you do though, but talk to us about SPLOTbox.
Okay. Yeah. That's one I hope we can get into the installer. So that kind of grew out of an early one that was made to collect audio files, and more or less, if you go to splot.ca/box is my demo site. And so it's set up to be kind of like a multi-purpose media collector. So you can upload images and sound as files, but you can also link to things that you automatically embed. So there's about 12 services that you can link to. Many of them, the WordPress auto embeds like YouTube and Vimeo, but I was able to add support for Vocaroo, which is an audio recorder, Loom screen recorder. And what you can do with a SPLOTbox is you can say, like, I want to allow any kind of media, or I can say I want to limit it to certain sites. Cool. But it's really for putting together collections of media along with writing as well. So this is kind of like combining TRU Writer with TRU Collector in some ways. And
again, Coventry did a really good early example of the SPLOTbox, where they had a whole bunch of videos of folks talking about various elements of the ed tech they were doing there. And it just sat as a gorgeous collection of videos with a URL that they would point people to, which I think is it's a very simple, elegant solution to sharing resources with folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I did one for the Open ETC where we wanted people to sort of share their, I feel like they wanted to share the stories behind the sites that they created within their service. And so it's the ability for people The last sort of feature that got thrown in there, which is kind of interesting, is you can enable this in the options for people who use your site. They can record directly into the website and it'll save audio, except it doesn't work on iOS mobile devices. But Terry Green used it for a project, and you can sort of use it even as a podcast platform.
It's interesting too, because Jim Luke was just asking. I know you have to go, Alan, so please don't worry about that. But one of the things he said is there ways to like integrate stuff like Kaltura, so you can have links from maybe institutional repository videos, and I guess that depends upon whether they're live or not, or whether they're accessible or behind a
I've been asking. It's more problematic because you have to be able to determine the embed code from the URL, and Kaltura is pretty obfuscated. And
Got it. Yeah.
So you would need some kind of crazy API thing, I think. And since Kaltura is like configured so many different ways, I've kind of run into my own roadblocks with trying to figure that one out. I know people want it, but I haven't been able to do that.
Well, I mean, look, you can't have it all, and they need to use PeerTube anyway, because that's my solution.
Oh, I got to enable that then.
Yeah, PeerTube, definitely, you must. We must.
All right, I'll be working with you. I'll be posting stuff to your blog through Bava Radio.
Don't do it. Don't resist.
All right. Well, thanks, and sorry I have to run, but I got to hear it.
Thank you, Alan.
It's awesome. Thanks, Alan. All right. So we have gone through several examples. We hope folks are playing with this in their own spaces. And some of you have used SPLOTs, so feel free again to share some examples and, just basically play around with these. I'm a big fan of SPLOTs in particular, but I also think SPLOTs, again, there's the installers, but then there's the templates and there's the tools you built locally. I often thought like it would be a layup to have an Omeka instance with Neatline and all of those very kind of specific tools for that set up so that you could have a template for your community if they wanted to do stuff with mapping or whatever.
Yeah, and in just chatting with schools over the years, I've heard of really cool examples where folks are framing out WordPress for incoming freshmen, and thinking about, how they're trying to find their sense of community on campus and, build a platform for themselves online, and then you might have the folks that are graduating that are really more thinking about their resume and an online portfolio and are in a completely different mindset than incoming students. And so just framing different versions of a site for those different users. I also heard of an institution that was really focused on, they had these biology students that needed to upload their research, but needed it in sort of a password protected site because it wasn't technically published yet. And so they wanted it to be private for their community. And so, the students themselves weren't so focused on designing out the site themselves, but having that available, as a template, I think is a really cool use of the site template as well.
Here's a great example from Susan at Lansing Community College. And she just put this in the chat in Discord. And I just want to say, like, what a cool example of a SPLOT box in the wild, where you can actually see the way in which it links to various resources, whether it's videos, audio. And I think, like, if you're a professor or a student or a librarian or wherever, and you want to link a bunch of resources about a topic, and you kind of want to frame that out, I do love the way the SPLOT box, kind of acts almost like a pin board for collecting resources, but at the same time as a resource if you're doing, if you're a professor and you have a whole bunch of videos on the topic that you want folks to watch or reference. This is the kind of value. Like, I was always amazed, as an early ed tech when I started to see stuff on YouTube, and there's just so much, but stuff you wanted to bring into a class and contextualize, and it was just gold. And so to think that you can have these very targeted tools for your class is great. So Susan, thank you for this brilliant example, because you're making the point for us that this is a tool we do want to get in our repertoire, but even if it's not, this is available. You can install it and you can make it possible through your domains instance. So do not delay. Make it. Oh, here's another one. Oh, these are great.
Yeah, so Bo just shared this in the chat as well. This is from Grinnell College, and it looks like this is using True Writer, which I think is cool. I love it. It looks like they might be documenting their experience through COVID. That's awesome.
Doesn't that remind you of the one Ed Beck shared at the OER by Domains, the semester of living dangerously?
Absolutely. They're Global Commons pandemic diaries.
Yeah, so I'll share that. I have it up.
You do?
So check this out. I do. So this is another one. This is the one where Ed Beck, working at the SUNY Oneonta, who has been active.
You might have the wrong tab open, or maybe I'm. Oh no. Okay, sorry. I was thinking of something else. Go ahead.
No, but this is one where he talks about the pandemic diaries and this whole semester where folks at the State University of New York Oneonta built a project around SPLOTs to have students and faculty document in the open web what their kind of experience like, and they have great specific posts where people are going to people's house and visiting through windows. People are writing about how abandoned New York City was. It's just, it's a magnificent kind of tour de force of these experiences for these students, and just everybody caught off guard. And it's really kind of nice because the tool was so simple and easy to use. And Ed Beck, interestingly, kind of built his own SPLOT because he wasn't really aware of the SPLOT installer. So he actually used a cocktail of plugins and themes, and he did it himself. But like that really does make the point that, you know, don't feel limited by the tools made by Alan, although they're great. But the bigger thing was these tools allowed them to capture a kind of almost like journalistic impression of what it was like for these students and faculty to live through such a bizarre moment where everything shut down. And, you know, within days, if not weeks, life just seemed radically different than it had been, you know, just a few short days or weeks before. So it was a magical project just in capturing that. And I think SPLOTs had something to do with it because it was easy and he could kind of send it out throughout the campus and people could do it without thinking too much about learning a tool.
And that's, I think, what I like about SPLOTs versus templates in general is, you know, if you can't find a use for one of these custom installers that we're calling SPLOTs, you know, you can go out and create your own like Ed did and just call it a template. And then that's something that everyone else has access to. So, yeah, I thank you all so much for sharing your examples. They're really cool. And I think we're going to be moving more into show and tell tomorrow as well. So keep them coming. We love them. As we think about wrapping up, Jim, I'm not sure if you have any other examples or any other comments you want to share about SPLOTs, or if we want to, I guess.
No, I would just encourage people. I mean, maybe just encourage people to play with those and think about, I mean, my whole thing with SPLOTs is as you're doing outreach, as you're doing promotion on campus, we heard it from Caroline and Amanda. Tim Clark talked about maybe using a SPLOT for his community site. So if we're breaking out and talking about community sites tomorrow or promotion, this is one tool within your quiver of possible where you could go and maybe really get interest quickly and have a low bar of folks being able to imagine, how would I create a quick portfolio? How would I create a quick classroom tool? I also know, like, you know, Tom Woodward has made a career of making really cool forms and integrations that make, like, basically using something like Gravity Forms or whatever to create a whole kind of infrastructure of communal engagement and sharing resources. So again, there's a world out there and there's people who have been doing this for a long time who are great resources. So part of what to think about when we have those discussions tomorrow when building community or promoting is what tools folks use beyond the SPLOT, but including the SPLOT to do that, because it is one quick way to get people involved and say, oh, this is accessible. This isn't some, you know, arcane thing that you only need Mountain Dew to do. I like my Mountain Dew example. I guess it dates me to about the 90s, but so be it.
No, absolutely. Thank you all. I think, all right, knowing the time, let's sort of switch gears, do a little housekeeping and prep for tomorrow. So if you've missed it, I pinned a message in the sessions channel that Jim just recently published, I think before the SPLOTs session. So you might have to scroll back up to find it here. But we are interested in getting your feedback for tomorrow's breakout room discussion. So if you have, a position, or if you feel very strongly about what room you want to sit in on, or what sort of conversation you want to be a part of tomorrow in the breakout rooms, let us know in the sessions channel. We will actually, I'm going to link to it.
Yeah, let's link to it again at the bottom of Discord.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I just linked to it. That is the poll. Just go in and I think you can essentially just react with one of those emojis based on the
emojis make no sense. I'm sorry. One's an Irish flag of all things. So.
Yeah, they don't really have anything to do with the other, but they're fun. And so just react to the type of conversation that you're interested in being a part of tomorrow. Or if it's multiple, that's also fine. And you can kind of jump in and out of different discussions. But the goal there is, once we have a sense of the types of conversations that people want to have, tomorrow when you wake up and come to Discord, there will be voice channels available for these conversations. And I think tomorrow it's at 12:05 p.m. Eastern, we will have about an hour where we're going to have breakout discussions. And that's really where, you all can talk to each other verbally as opposed to just typing. And if you're comfortable just typing, then that works too. But the voice channels will give you a different way to engage and chat with each other about your experiences with Domain of One's Own.
And again, none of that is recorded, so that will not go away from whatever is said and done there. I think the other thing, too, to consider is we did give a series of topics to kind of circumscribe that. But if there's something that we're really missing and you want to do a write-in, just do that or reach out to us, and we'll take that in consideration. We just, kind of seeing the topics that have come up over the day, we want to help people address that. Seems like archiving is of interest. The community site is of interest. So there's going to be promoting on campus. So there's, some of those will overlap and stuff. We just want to provide the sinews of connection for folks, because really this workshop is about, and I think it's worked well in this regard, it's about you all sharing stuff that you've been doing with other folks who are new to Domain of One's Own, or who are kind of looking for inspiration for their project, or, whatever that case is. That's really the point of this, is to put you all in contact. And we have the resources. Again, I do love Michael Branson. Forgive my camera. I told people that this happens. This is when you're low budget like me. This is what happens. But we do have everything we've talked about today in terms of tutorials, in terms of overviews, in terms of Q&A. There's immediately an archive. You can go back to the site, which will remain up, Jim Luke, forever and ever. And you can look at any of those tutorials. You can get a reminder. We also have guides built into the abstracts with clicks to the support guide. So we've tried to make it so that even though the day moved fast and we covered a lot, it's not like it's gone. Right? You can now go back to them and think about them as very kind of specific modular resources you can go back to and use. So think about it like that. I didn't realize just how fast the first morning would move and how much commentary and back and forth there would be. And I know people have said to me, it was hard for me to follow the chat and you all talking. But that's all right. If you want to kind of come back and look at that stuff in silence or on your own at another time, it's there for you. Tomorrow, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I interrupted you. I was just going to say, no. Tim Clark and I were actually just talking about this earlier before one of the panels, that, it's sometimes helpful. We've just kind of scrolled back through the conversation now that we've sort of ingested the session itself, and commented what we can. Now we've kind of gone back and saw the conversation that was happening alongside of it and taken notes on the links and things and made to-do lists for ourselves. So that's kind of how things happened this morning. We realized it was a little fast paced, but we wanted to make sure that everyone had a solid foundation for the potential of domains and how it just works and blends together. So,
Yeah.
this afternoon and into tomorrow in particular, things will really start to make sense. We also realized that there are so many new faces here, but also so many veteran domain of one's own, administrators in attendance. And so making sure everyone has a solid, has that same solid foundation was really important for us, I think. So tomorrow, the plan is to meet back here at 11. We'll start 11 sharp again, but we'll be Eastern time, but we'll be back in Discord beforehand, like always. So if you want to jump into a voice channel or chat and ask more questions and start the conversation early, feel free to do so. And then we will be jumping straight into a panel shortly thereafter called Where Do You Live? The various domains of domain of one's own.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And tomorrow won't have any pre-recorded sessions. Tomorrow will pretty much all be live. So there will be a little bit of a kind of shift in that. And it will be a lot of hearing from other people. And I want to do a shout out to Janet and Adrian, who both said as a write-in, they would be interested in how people are assessing domain of one's own. So we will add that to the list. And so folks who are into that, we hear you and we can respond. So I want to just take a moment to thank everybody who not only attended, but so many who engaged with the community, but just shared back stuff they knew, stuff they've been through. It was really cool to see that and to have people solve problems like emails not going through in the moment. So I really appreciate folks spending the time and staying with us and sharing with other folks who are doing that. So we really appreciate that.
Last two final housekeeping things. During those breakout discussions tomorrow, if you would be so willing and are interested in potentially helping facilitate one of those breakout rooms, please let us know. Send us a personal message or just write it in the sessions channel. Unfortunately, Jim and I cannot be in all 6 or however many rooms there are. So anyone who's willing to just kind of help lead that conversation would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
And then also, we've mentioned this a few times, but tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be doing a show and tell. That is also live, and we're going to have an open StreamYard link that we're going to welcome you all to join and jump in and share examples, or experiences around domain of one's own. So start to be thinking about what might be of interest to us or something that you might want to share. We'd love to have you and would really appreciate it.
And we may or may not do karaoke. I just don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
I don't know if we'll have enough time. I'm just kidding. Oh gosh. Anything else to say, Jim?
No, just thank you to everybody and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you all and take care.